Welcome! Today we're going to be looking at one-point perspective. Go ahead and put your name up here on the name line on your worksheet today, and then your class hour. So for example, if you're 4th grade Zamilpa's class, you would put 4Z up there in that corner. The first thing we're going to start working with is our horizon line. That's the horizontal line that goes from side to side on your page. And we're going to have a vanishing point. That means everything's going to look like it goes all the way back to this point to where it gets so small it vanishes and we can't see it anymore. This is single point perspective because we only have one vanishing point. 2-point perspective, when we get to it later on, we'll have 2 different vanishing points. So you have your horizon line. Anytime that you're working, you're going to want to draw that in with your pencil. And then you're going to put that dot, your vanishing point, can actually be anywhere on this line. For today, and to simplify, we're going to do it in the middle of our page. Then you would sketch out your lettering, or if you were going to be doing, say you wanted to do a building, you would do just your shape of the building, of the face. That's the side that's facing you for your building. So for example, maybe there's a door here and a couple of windows on this side of the building, right? Then you're going to start connecting all of these corners to your vanishing point. So the only reason I'm using a ruler today is not so much to measure as it is to keep my lines straight. I'm going to put my point of my pencil on my vanishing point, and then I'm going to line up the other edge of that ruler here and draw a line. So I went from this corner to my vanishing point, and I'm going to find the next corner of my A, line it up by holding my pencil in that corner and then going to the dot and stretching it back. I'm going to do this for any corner that shows. Now, would I need to do this corner here? No, because it goes through this black part of my A. I'm not going to see that when I'm finished, so I don't have to do this corner. But this corner down here is going to show up a little bit in that opening space of my A. Same for this corner down here. Now I have this A, but it's stretched all the way back. I don't want it to go all the way back. What I want to do is make it a little shorter. So I'm going to kind of follow parallel to my other horizon line up here and do a little line. And now if you want to measure so that it comes out even, you can. So if I measured this, I put my 0 line for my centimeters on that corner, and I measure back to where this one stops on my ruler, I can see it's 1 centimeter. So if I want to make sure that this side is 1 centimeter back, what I have to do is coming off this vanishing point, remember everything comes off this vanishing point, line up my 0 any place along the edge of this A. And then I'm going to go back to 1 centimeter and put a dot. So I've lined up this with the edge of my A, this part of my ruler with this dot, and then I put a dot at that 1 centimeter mark. Then I know I can put my ruler up against that dot from this corner over here that I've already established against the dot, and then down to the bottom line. I still have all this extra back here, so now it's time to erase that extra. We don't want it in there. We just want the front part of our letters to show. And these are in here as guidelines to help us come off that vanishing point. And then when I color it in, I would just color in to those other sections in the back. I wouldn't continue all the way back to my vanishing point. Kind of like that, right? Let's try it again with the R. The R is at a bit of a different angle. I'm going to find a corner here, match my ruler up to the vanishing point, and gently draw. I can try this corner, see, but it's going to be on the black part, so I don't need to do that corner. Let's go over here to this one, to my dot. That one's going to go back. Now this is a little trickier. You'll notice this is a rounded edge. It's not a corner anymore. So this time I want to put this on my vanishing point, and I want to keep creeping my ruler sideways until it's just touching the edge of that R. That's where it's going to come off, the edge of the R. I'm going to have that same thing down here, that little space, just to the edge of the R. Then if I want to measure that centimeter again, I can do so off of here and put a dot. Or I can use this line we already did for our A all the way across, because all of our letters should be the same height, which means this one's going to go from here to here now. Now this one this R is coming straight at you. So your eye keeps saying, but this looks weird, this doesn't look right. That's because it's foreshortened a little bit when something comes straight at you, and that really does mess with your brain a little bit as far as what it should look like. It is correct, and your brain adjusts for it eventually, but for a little while it'll be going, I don't know if that looks right. It is mathematically correct to have it there. Now we're going to look at our T. Same thing, we're going to take all the points of this T, line them up to that vanishing point. And T's have a lot of defined edges. This one's further to the right, so it's going to have a lot more that go back. You can check this one. Nope, it's going to go on the black, so I don't need that one. I already have my reference from last time from the A and the R here, so I know that this is all the further back I need to go. And then I can do a straight line down off of this corner, because I know that's where that one needs to go. And if I want to measure this one outward, I can. So I'm going to go and mark it at the 1 centimeter mark. And then I want these two to be parallel to each other, this one and this one, up and down. So those are the spaces we're going to keep on the letter T. And if you erase your extra lines, now you have your ART in 3D in 1 point perspective. And of course, our little house over here that we started, same thing as that T. I'm not going to go all the way back because I know I don't want my house to go back behind my letters. I'm going to match up each of those edges to the vanishing point, and then I can decide how deep I want my building to be. Remember, these two lines have to be parallel to each other, same distance apart. And then I'm going to do the same height as my letters on there. Erase my extra lines. There we go. So, now, something you'll notice about this building, I know some of you have probably seen the quick and dirty cube, right? Where if you want to make it look 3D, you draw one here, and then you overlap the exact same cube here, so you get an extra little square, and then you connect the points. It looks like a cube, but mathematically it's incorrect, because we know when we're looking at all of these different perspectives that our foreground, our middle ground, and our background, the differences between those are things in the foreground are larger, things as they move away from us get smaller. So if this square back here is the same size as this square, that would be mathematically incorrect. That can't happen when we're actually viewing something. The square in the back needs to be smaller. So you could do this trick, but you have to remember that when you do this one, the square back here needs to be smaller to be mathematically correct in how that goes together as far as perspective goes. So keep that in mind. If you've always been using this trick, remember you have to do larger square, smaller square to make it correct. You can also do buildings, lettering. This works with just about everything. So that would be the 1 point perspective. Looking at 2 point perspective, all we're doing is adding another vanishing point when we're working on things. So if you were going to do that cube and you wanted to do it mathematically correct, you would draw a line down the center for the edge that's facing you, and then you would have 2 shorter lines on here. Or you would just draw the line down the center, connect the bottom point to the first vanishing point, connect the bottom point to the second vanishing point. This is why it's 2 point perspective. There are 2 points. The top of that line back to the vanishing point, and the top of the line back to the vanishing point. At that point in time, you can decide how long you want this building. I put these here arbitrarily. You could move it back to make it even skinnier, or closer up to make it more narrow. But you can't forget, once you draw those lines, well, now you have a whole other point for these vanishing points to connect to. So you have to go back and add those in to the ends of these lines, so that now you have a 2 point perspective cube. So it'll have a top and 2 faces for you. And of course you can go back and you can erase all those extra lines. Now what does something like that look like with a letter? It's a little bit more difficult if you're doing a letter, right? Because you have to remember this is an edge. If you're doing a 2 point perspective, you have to have an edge that's facing you. So for example, somebody said, well, what if you did the letter T? Okay, so what if we sketched in the letter T? excuse my morning bell here at school. Then I'd be connecting to this one. And again, I'm not going all the way back. I'm using this dot as a reference, but I don't want to draw through the rest of my drawing. So here, 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 right? Well, but then I have this one out here. So now what's that going to look like if I start doing this? Okay, so now I have this really weird, like, gazillion, dimensional T. So it goes back this way, and it goes back this way, but not all the way this way. So it doesn't work to do things flat on with 2-point perspective. You have to start at that angle for 2-point perspective for things to really look like they're working right.